All right, guys, today I'd like to talk to you about talking to the text. Now, by talking to the text, I don't necessarily mean that you're going to have a real conversation with it, at least verbally and aloud, but I want to talk to you about the strategy of talking to the text. Now, with talking to the text, essentially, it's kind of a fancy name for annotation of text. Text annotation can be a really helpful tool in helping you understand text and get meaning from them. Now, sometimes we are going to be faced with texts that we either find difficult or hard or maybe even beyond our comprehension level. And it's important that we have tools in order to hopefully overcome those situations. Talking to the text is an example of one of those types of tools that we can use. It's an important thing to understand when talking to the text that if you don't have a purpose with your reading, if you're not doing it for a specific reason, or if you're not aware of what that reason is, it can be very hard to get a lot out of talking to the text. But I wanted to hopefully show you kind of what a talking to the text might look like today. Now, the things that you might see in talking to the text might include things like connections to personal things, connections to the world, connections to other works of literature possibly. Things that you might see outside of that could include questions that you have for what's happening there. You also might see things like predictions. It's possible that you could see different analysis interjected there. You could also see maybe paraphrasing or summarizing of significant passages in the text. One thing to be aware of with talking to the text, obviously it's not always a capability that we can write directly onto the text, so we just need to be aware of whether that's something that we are able to do and is allowed. If it's not, there are ways to get around it, such as taking those page notes on a book, but you'd have to or on a notebook, sorry, but you'd have to go ahead and label that notebook every time you made a note and things like that, and that can be kind of difficult and arduous to go back and forth between those things. Talking to the text is a very good tool for two cases. One, those cases where you specifically know why you're reading and what you're looking for. And two, the second time is when you are struggling with the text. It really helps you kind of engage and hook into the text, and if you can kind of direct yourself, it should hopefully help you pull greater meaning out of the text. So let's go ahead and look at this. We're going to go ahead and read this selection called How Teachers Make Children Hate Reading. It's by John Holt, and John Holt's an American education theorist, but he writes here about how teachers can ruin reading for students. I feel this is very appropriate because we are talking about reading. In addition, it has some good points and stuff that's kind of interesting. So, all right, let's go ahead and talk about this. Okay, when I was teaching English at the Colorado Rocky Mountain School, I used to ask my students the kind of questions that English teachers usually ask about reading assignments. Questions designed to bring out the points that I had decided they should know. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there, and this would be very common in a talk to text. You stop wherever you have something to say, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it, and I'm going to actually go ahead and drag this over a little bit right here. You can see a comment over here. Okay, so why should the teacher dictate the reading process? That would be a question that was valid for me, especially as an English teacher. So I can go ahead and I'm going to close that down and drag you back over to the main text here. All right. They, on their part, would try to just get me to give them hints and clues as to what I wanted. It was a game of wits. I hate this game that we play. And you can go ahead and see over here in the comment box. So I go ahead and put it there. Now, obviously, in a word processing unit, they kick it out to the right-hand side when the note's on the left, even. But if we were in another type of setting, it's possible that it might be a way we could use that. So I'm going to go ahead and close the comments down and go on to the next one. I never gave my students an opportunity to say what they really thought in a book. Wow, that's kind of a shame. I definitely think it's important that kids have the ability to kids should bring the knowledge to class. Okay, so as we scroll over here, you can always see left the comment there. Okay. I gave vocabulary drills and book and quizzes too. I told my students that every time they came upon a word in their book they did not understand, they were to look it up in the dictionary. Wow. I can't imagine how much time I would waste doing that if that was the expectation, if I had to look it up every time I didn't understand a word. All right. That's kind of crazy. All right. So let's go ahead and leave a comment there. Sorry, lack of typing there. All right. So that's, a typical comment I'd make. So this is just kind of an introduction to your basic talk to text. Now, talking to text is a skill that we'll work on and we'll use throughout the year. If you were to continue this, you would go on and you would just select a line, write it down. What I want you to do is I want you to lay this text down on your paper, or either that or just like label which paragraph and which page you found it on. I want you to take one column from this text, and I want you to have at least 3 observations in your talk to test. Now, your observations can be anything from questions you might have about the subject matter, or it could be, predictions about it, or it could be basically your opinion, especially because this piece tends to bring out a lot of opinions from readers. So it could be any of those types of things. I would encourage you to go ahead and do that in your notebook, and that will be on your midterm notebook check. Thanks, guys, and hopefully this helped make you better. Remember, talk to text is an important tool, especially when we know what we're looking for, have authentic purpose, and or are having trouble with a text. It's a great way to help us engage with texts that maybe we don't connect with 100%. Gives us a task to do. So thank you for your time, and take care of yourselves.